The exhaustion's setting in. Start the countdown to my untimely demise. I'm so tired. I am exhaustion itself, but I'm doing really well. I am working 6 days a week at a theater right now and have been for the past month. It's been great. I really like what I do, but I am getting a little tired trying to make theater and YouTube work at the same time and getting a little stressed about everything. So I decided that this week I'm gonna do something that I actually like, which is kind of just sewing. I don't get a chance to do that a lot, even though it's kind of what the channel started with. So yeah, let's do a quick sewing project to ease some stress, relax a little bit, you know, just some chill times. Hopefully. I figure that I might as well do 2 birds, 1 stone, and get a piece of mending out of the way with a sewing project. And so I've had these jeans that are just covered in holes, which doesn't usually bother me, but they've gotten a few stains along with that, and they're just kind of dead to me now. So I'm gonna revamp them, and I'm gonna patch up the holes and cover up the stains with quilt scraps. Lately, I've been collaborating on Etsy with this amazing shop called Run by Sarah, and I have been making a few pieces for her in my free time, and her whole thing is recycled quilt scraps. So she sends me some of the offshoots to make into different items for her shop. So I decided, how fun would it be to incorporate some of these quilt scraps that I've been sent into my pair of jeans. Because we're being fun and cheesy and everything, I think I'm just gonna go with some heart patches, and we're just gonna cover a pair of jeans in them, because why not? They're my pants, and I get to do with them what I please. So, without further ado, let's get started on rescuing some jeans. I'm using some paper just to make sure that the large hearts are large enough to cover the holes in my pants, but I'm really just freehanding these hearts the rest of the time because measuring is for people who have time or patience, and neither of those are me at this moment. So I'm just kind of eyeballing what I'll need and how many hearts I'll need, and then getting to cutting it away out of the scraps, trying to use them as economically as possible so that I still have leftovers for smaller hearts and future projects. Because, if anything, I am a hoarder of scraps. So far, so good with the cutting out of all the hearts. However, the ones that are so small are so cute. They're just also going to be really hard to use because I need to bind all the edges of these because they're quilts. So I'm just gonna have to be careful and go slow, I guess. Which, you know. I've gotten all of my pieces cut out for the project, which is great. You know, step 1 done. But now I actually have to start sewing. However, that is a problem for tonight. I have to go to work, and I will see you later. And that evening, or in my case early morning, once I got home from work, it was time to begin the meticulous little process of binding all of these hearts' edges. I like to fold my corner over, that way I have a seamless finish on my binding, and I don't have to worry about sewing the 2 ends together like you normally do when you're binding a quilt. Going around these corners, I just had to stop and start a lot and do height turns on my machine before I could then flip it out and get started on the back. Because these hearts are so tiny, the binding actually doesn't really fold into like a neat edge. It just kind of folds into one mass on the back. So it was a bit of a fabric origami situation to make everything fit into place, pin it down, and then get to sewing. Just trying to make everything look as neat as possible? Question mark? I mean, it's gonna be hidden by the pants anyway, but for my own sanity, I'd like it to look kind of nice. Just 'cause.
But before I can start attaching my now bound hearts onto the jeans, I want to mark out where some of the stains are. I can obviously see where the holes are, but I'm using pins and turning my jeans inside out and just marking out with a pen where I'll want the hearts to go to cover the stains, since I'll be largely working inside out. Then I'm just kind of placing things out and figuring out what goes where, because I forgot to mark out where I intended each of these different sized hearts to go, and it became a bit of a guessing game and a puzzle from past me to present me. Also, to make this easier on myself, I did cut open the inner leg of the jeans, and I'll sew those up later. Then comes the dreaded thing of wrestling a bunch of denim and quilt scraps under a hobby machine. Not an industrial, just a hobby. But the most helpful thing here was using a walking foot, which I highly recommend if you are going to be working with thick materials of any degree, and making sure you have the correct needles in your machine. Otherwise, it was just making sure that I was going extra slow to create an outline for all the hearts and then make a double edge, that way it's all secure. Then, to actually make these jeans wearable, I'm just sewing up that inseam again with a straight stitch and then a zigzag to prevent fraying. I don't have an overlocker with me, so a zigzag is going to have to do the job here, which is a handy, neat trick if you can't afford a second giant machine, or if you're like me and left it 2,000 miles away in a closet. Then I just trimmed off some of the edges of that inseam so it doesn't fray anymore, and I can begin cutting out my hearts, and it's so fun to be able to reveal what's underneath them all. After cutting away all the denim on the hearts, I am running my nails over the edges, that way I can give it sort of a distressed, frayed look, and this will become more and more distressed as I wash the jeans. And with that, my new old jeans are complete.
I am so in love with these jeans, and I legitimately feel like sewing this week has just given me like a breath of new life every time I sat down at my machine, despite the frustrating bits. Something about it hits different. So of course I am just endlessly glad that I got to do this, and now I have a really cute, fun pair of jeans. And of course the best part about making any item of clothing or upcycling or, altering is when people on the street say, "Wow, what cute jeans," and then you get to say, "Thanks, I made them." I hope you guys liked this video. I really am glad that I got to get back into some sewing, and I hope that as this show that I'm working on slows down its tech process and just gets into performances, that I'll have more time for projects like these. But obviously I really enjoyed making it, so thank you for watching. If you would like to see more sewing content, then be sure to visit my channel, especially my older videos are very sewing heavy, and most of my newer videos are very discussions of costume and media heavy. If your attention span is not feeling up to more YouTube, because my goodness, do I get the burnout at this point, then maybe try visiting my Instagram or my TikTok, or if you would like to see some behind-the-scenes perks and early access to videos that are always ad-free, then go check out my Patreon. Comment what you might like to see more of from me in the future as I have a little more time as, these next few weeks come up. Have a great day or night or whenever you happen to be watching this, and bye! Comment what you might like to see more of from...
To eat now or to eat later? That is the mango question.
I speak the English language. It would be great if I could do it on camera.